that the whole thing of potential is a continuous releasing of who you are and what you can accomplish, achieve or do. So potential has got this like never-ending potential to be expressed. Now you can't do that when you define things. You can't use the word twice. If someone asks you what is your identity, you can't say your identity is like your identity. Now that's what I've asked you, what is that? No man, it's like your identity. So whenever you define something, don't use the word you would like to define in your definition. So potential, that continuous release of who you are, never stops. So that's why you might, like the Lanas say, you might continuously release something and then for a certain season. Well, that's what I believe. Sometimes a season calls for certain potential to be released. And that season demands that kind of potential to be released. And when you release that potential, then it's sort of fitting the season. If I can use an example, if you fall pregnant as you know, and become a mother, then it's called upon you by your young one to release that potential of being a mother. But before you had him, it wasn't demanded of you. Your season, your circumstances, nothing asked you to release your potential as a mother. Yeah, but that what you described there is the natural process of learning. The older you get, the more you know nothing. The reality of something is just as real whether my client lies or not. It doesn't matter. So the validation is implicit there. I think it links for me to the unconditional positive regard. I regard you positively, unconditionally. So if you are lying, then it's not something that I would sit there as a person trying to figure out, are you lying, are you not lying? I take it on face value and say, this is it. This is what it is. So that validation means a lot, I think. I do think, depending on, for yourself, you might have your story as to how you've dealt with certain pains and challenges and givenness which you would not have chosen if you had a choice, and how you've dealt with that. I think everyone has got that story. I think life is not, no one is exempt from suffering. I think it is one of the most universal experiences in life, that everyone can say, I've suffered. And then again, adding to that, maybe something that Carl said, my greatest suffering was actually my greatest suffering. In your definition, that could have been nothing, but for me, it was the greatest suffering. So there is that thing that you cannot compare suffering, one suffering to another suffering. The guy in the shack, he's suffering, and when I look at that, I would think, sure, that's consistent suffering. A child that grows up in a shack, that's consistently cold in winter, that's consistently hungry. You know, we talk about basic things that are not just in place. Whereas maybe my children or your children don't have on that basic level consistently an experience of discomfort all the time. Like being hungry, like being cold, or whatever. And I know if you talk Maslow's hierarchy, that's very basic human needs. But then I personally don't look at Bill Gates and think, why the heck don't I have 5 jets to fly around with? That's wrong. That's injustice, for instance. It's not. It's just where I am and where the guy in the shack is and where Bill Gates is. That doesn't help anyone if I would theoretically explain that when you're in your suffering. One needs to understand that within what we now to pursue, which we call coaching, is creating that environment where this person can with a lot of freedom express the pain that they sit with. Because the environment of coaching, the context of coaching lends itself to, that's why you get coaching, amongst other things. because you're allowed to express yourself unconditionally. And I, as a coach, should be able to recognize you, see you, validate you, whatever words unconditional positively regard you. I should be able to do that. Now, I think one thing, let me just mute someone here. I think one thing that I do think, and maybe it adds again to what Chris said, is the willingness that I have to journey with you. The commitment that I personally, and maybe you yourself also experience, to say that I will journey with you. I will journey with you. Whether, like you say, it be just to restore divine order in a life and make a living from that, or just restore divine order in someone's life because you love them and you're not going to get a cent from that. Irrespective of our motive, there is this willingness to journey with someone, which means a lot. I think it means a lot. I think they are not necessarily maybe friendship, maybe when you're married, and those two as an example, or maybe when you have a coach, you have that kind of person, that other person that is willing to accept your mistakes, to accept your weaknesses, to accept your pain, to accept your way of viewing the world, even though it might differ from him or hers. That kind of relationship I found very rare. It's not so prevalent. It's not so all over. Even amongst couples, it's not an easy relationship to maintain. If you're married, it will have challenges. So for most where that breaks, I would say more of them breaks than are actually maintained and vibrant and enjoyable and so forth. So what I'm saying by that is just saying it's a very rare kind of relationship. A very rare kind of thing that you're seen for who you are and even embraced and celebrated for who you are. So that is something that I and you would like to give a client, is that kind of environment, that kind of context, that kind of space in an hour or two, that client can feel that kind of acceptance, that kind of affirmation. Whether that in a particular situation would unhinge your pain in a moment like this, I don't think so necessarily. Whether that is trusting the process, that when you journey, when you trust the process, when you allow that process to unfold, it has the potential to bring relief for emotional pain, whether that emotional pain is caused by a loss of a job or a loss of a husband or wife or a divorce or a child, whether it's the loss of your health, whether it's the loss of your status in your community, whether it's any kind of loss, whether that one moment can just turn it around, except when it's a miracle, because that can happen too. If it is a miracle, because that can happen too, then you celebrate that. You shout hallelujah, thank you God for what you've done here. Because that is possible. I believe in miracles. I see miracles. I can send you some videos to look at miracles with your own eyes. You will still doubt some of them, but you can't doubt for too long, because if I show you 10 of them, then it is possible. If that happens, then it's an amazing experience to be at the front, be in the vicinity, to sit there and test, see this. It's beautiful. If that's not the case, then one needs to resort back, because what you and I, and sometimes we grapple with that. Sometimes hopelessness gets hold of us too. Whether you're the helper, great helper, go to this guy, he's a great helper. He really understands people. He can help you. Go to this woman. She knows her stuff about helping people, because she's been working with people in that area of challenge forever. Even those people are sometimes gripped by hopelessness, which to me is an indication of this kind of a maybe vulnerability, maybe a humility, maybe a deeper understanding of our dependence on one another. Because then I myself, if I am the great healer of some sort in someone's eyes, and everyone comes to me because Nico will sort you out, and Nico gets despondent, Nico needs to go to Quest, or talk to someone that can also embrace him and help him through his hopelessness and despair that he might experience from time to time. So what am I saying? I think I'm saying that our understanding of body, our understanding of community, our understanding of connection, our understanding of relationship should bring us to a place, as the helpers now, I'm talking about us, as the helpers, to a place where we can say, today I need your hand on my head and your prayer, please, because I'm not coping today. And for that moment, you should be strong for me, because tomorrow I'm going to carry someone else's burden. And maybe I need to be then there for that person. So in a sense, understanding community, connection, our own vulnerability in that process, our need for humility is quite important. I'm talking now, I'm trying to give a kind of a picture for our understanding of how to deal with pain, how to understand pain, how to befriend pain, how to make peace with pain, how to see pain, that kind of thing. I'm just throwing in things here. I hear myself just throwing things in here, but it makes sense. When I listen, it makes sense. So the community, that kind of thing is important. What does it mean in reality for us as coaches? You will never be able to go without a mentor in your life, or some other coach, even if it's on your same level, that you need to spend time with from time to time, even though that might be only one session a month, where you can be free, where that person can embrace you, where that person allows for you to reflect the space with unconditional positive regard, empathy and congruence, and where you can just be. Now, for instance, if I can relate my own experience, on Saturday, Kati was my coach and I was the client. And I asked her to be my coach, and I don't know, she might testify as to how beautiful it was for me. I was just me. I wasn't the teacher, I wasn't the mentor, I wasn't the one know-it-all trying to understand everything. I was just a child, actually. I felt like a child. I could just talk to her. I cannot explain to you what it does for me to have had someone just sitting there and asking me questions, and I can relate in honesty and congruence just how I feel, you know, not theoretically explaining it, not dogmatically, not, you know, giving a thinking model, but just say, you know, when the question is asked, what do you want to, or what do you want to do in the last 6 months of your life? And I can just say what I want to do. Or what do you want to mean to, and I can just say what I want to mean. So I grant myself that space in an experience like that, and then I realized afterwards, boy, Nico, if you ever doubted the power of coaching, you've seen again how beautiful it is and what it does for you. And most probably it does it for all other people that go through a process where there is a coach that give his time or her time, are willing to journey, validate, just allow, giving you the reflective space. So I don't know what your experience was, but I had a ball on Saturday, my hour with Kati. So that is rare. Like I said earlier, it's very rare. That's very rare. Not even my wife creates that space for me as often as I might need it. So, and I've got a great wife, you know, we spend a lot of significant time together. But that is what plays there is the neutrality of this person, which is also something which we don't voice often, and don't think often is so powerful. But the neutrality, that she remains in a way empathetic with me. She allows herself, I could see she understood me with certain things that I explained. She understood. I could see she gets me. But she's neutral. She can walk away from me. So she can move in and she can move out easily. Which with family members and friends, it's a kind of a different scenario. So the rarity of that relationship allows for things like that. Now, it doesn't resolve pain like, you've given me an answer, yeah, Tolbach, now I see it. Because pain is not resolved intellectually. Pain is resolved more often emotionally. So it sort of begs for that connection where there is trust. It sort of begs for that connection where I can, in some way, in body language and the way someone would ask me a question, and it's most probably all of us have that. You know when someone gets you. You know when someone really is interested to listen to you. And not listen to you so that they can answer you, give you the solution, but they listen to you in a more tentative, relaxed, peaceful posture and allow you to come in. There's a difference in listening, and one detects that. You see it quite easily. You can see it by glassiness in the eyes, you can see it by staring, and they look right through you, but you can see they were far gone. Or you can see it by the way they ask questions. No, they just didn't get what I said. And now it's the third time they ask a question in such a way that they don't understand where I come from. So as detecting, and we don't ever speak about that and say, ek het jou gevang, jy hoor my nie, ek sien jy luister nie na my nie, jy's 'n coach, jy moet luister, né? We don't go there. So we just remain like, I'm not understood. I'm not understood. I feel we miss one another, but it remains on a kind of a subconscious level or a level not verbalized. But that experience doesn't help us to resolve pain. If you get that kind of experience with a client, that client would tell you, it doesn't help me really. That's why I say, bringing it to an intellectual level, and then I know in this it's different because we ask the questions and we want to understand cognitively, intellectually, and we need to grapple with it on that level. Maybe a bit more than on a spiritual or emotional level. But when it gets to the actual coaching on that spiritual or emotional level, that's where we find resolve. So if you were to tell me, if I can bring it back to one of my journeys of what I could call pain or suffering, when Dylan was born, there was that 9-month stint where I cried every day, couldn't resolve this, didn't know what to make of this. I was like, I don't know, a zombie. I was face first, it's a good Afrikaans word to describe that. It was like I'm hit constantly. And I don't even want to hold up my hands to protect. That kind of experience, I'm just trying to explain the experience. So in that experience, it wasn't resolved intellectually for me. We're saying, no, listen, this is how it works. Now God, in His wisdom, brought you this child. And now your purpose is so much bigger than the next one's purpose. And what you now need to do is just embrace this large purpose. Man, I can just imagine how many people you're going to influence. And how many people you're going to impact. And I think if you look at it from this point of view, then, sure, God only gives strong people like you a child like. That doesn't help me. It doesn't help me. It didn't help me. Friends in their ineptness try to resolve the pain that they see in their friends, like us at that time, in such a way, and you need to have empathy with that. You need to grow in any case beyond judging them now in the way that they treat you, yes.
What was it that you would have wanted from your friends? What would have
yes,
given you comfort?
I wanted what Koos mentioned, which I felt I didn't. I wanted someone that says, and he could have used the F word. Yes, Nico. Maybe just that, but it's like, I don't know what happened then with us, and this is just one story, and everyone's got their story, and I think everyone might have a different reason why they never had resolve. But it's like our friends were not talking about that. It's like death in the family. We don't talk about that. And I was like, just say something, man. Just say sorry. I went at one stage and I thought, kan iemand nie net vir my sê sorry nie? Sê vir my sorry. But that was a thing that I thought it was just my thing, because when I was small, my mother would scold me and I would cry and she would say, hou op! And then I would say, maar nog nie vir my toe maar gesê nie. You didn't say sorry. And then she said, man, hou net op. And then I would carry on until she said, ach, toe maar Nico, and then I stopped. So, I don't know if it was just my thing, because when we go through pain, we're open sore. We try to protect, so we try to close the sore, because the sore is, imagine physically a sore, a wound, a cut, it's like this. You want to do something about that. So we want to do something about that. So I thought that's one of the things. As iemand net verbygekom en sê, F-woord gebruik en vir my gesê, sorry. Ek het vir jou niks om te sê nie, maar ek wil vir jou sê sorry. Which didn't happen. But the process then culminated, because the wrestling was a lot, and now maybe for me, if I can remain a little bit more theoretical about that experience, which is not a theoretical experience, it was a real life experience. The theory, if we go Viktor Frankl, let's just for a moment, Viktor Frankl enters, a man that himself went through Auschwitz and Dachau, 3.5 years in concentration camps. And a great mind, brilliant psychiatrist, came out of there, wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. And much of his thinking hinges about, what we want, even if the pain remains, is we want to make meaning of that. We ask the question why, because the question why after trauma happened is one of the biggest questions. Why, or why me, or why now, or something, but why? Why? So me grappling with the why question, looking at him and say, why? Wat kry jy nou daar uit? Is it lekker om my seer te maak? Because I was angry too. I was very angry. Because I didn't think I deserved this, and everyone comes at a point where you at some time think I didn't deserve this. So that's like a normal human response. But then, if we go Frankl, how did you make sense of this loss? Because he talks about, like I mentioned previously, he talks about the tragic triad, things that we find difficult to make peace with, or to make sense of or to bring meaning to ourselves about his loss, his death. And then there's a third one which I can't remember now. But those things are very difficult to find meaning in. So for me it was the loss of normality, loss of a child that's normal, loss of a child that can see, loss of a child that will talk one day. We've in any case discovered it through time or over time. But the meaning for me eventually, but that meaning could not come. It came after 9 months, after my son was born, 9 months. That meaning could not come in day 1. It could not come in day 2, 3, week 1, week 2, 3, month 1, month 2, month 3. It came in month 9. Now, I don't know why then for me. Partly I would say is because I allowed myself to mourn, consistently mourn, cried. I didn't go out, I didn't do anything, I stayed at home. I mourned the loss. And maybe that might help us with dealing with pain, is to mourn. And then in yourself, for most of us who are Christians, you need to now bring this loving God into the picture of this brokenness that you have to deal with. I don't know how one does that, but there needs to come resolve of some sort as well. Because our paradigms are shifted in terms of our view of who God is when we go through pain. Like a friend of mine that, he's like, he was very hooked up on what was then known as the faith movement and, just confess and you will possess kind of thing. And then his son got into an accident and he was hit on the head. And they at first thought it was aneurysm, which it wasn't, but then his brain couldn't drain some fluids and they had to put in a stent, or I can't remember what the case was. And suddenly in his vulnerability and his inability to now confess, and then you will possess, because obviously he confessed and couldn't possess because the boy was taken up in hospital to save his life. It's like your paradigm now shifts about who you think God is. Because the God that just dishes out whatever you say is suddenly gone. He's not, hey, where are you? So there on that level, spiritual, I'm talking about different levels, I think, emotional, mourn. As someone that can acknowledge you and even allow you to mourn within, I think that might be doubly strong. I think so. Someone that might not try to snap you out of your mourning, but could just sit with you. I just want to relate something. I know one morning when we cycled, Chris told me about a friend. I think you couldn't get out of bed that day as well. It just came. I don't know if he massaged you or washed your feet or something, but he sat on your bed, on Chris's bed, and he cried with Chris. And you told me that it brought so deep consolation and comfort to you. Didn't take your pain away, but it brought comfort. So if someone can mourn with you, I think there's value. It's like expressing, I see you. It's like expressing, I validate you and I'm willing to sit with you. I think you have at one stage posted something on, and I can't remember the words, but it's like, someone that would just sit with you, that has no words to speak. But that sitting together, that being with you, that being together in one another's presence. I think our Western society obviously doesn't give us accolades for that. Because you're sitting, doing what? Come on, cut your hair and go and get yourself a job, kind of thing. That's how we think in general. And this demands something that's much more of a different posture. It's like, I don't know, it's a vulnerability, a willingness, a servanthood, brokenness, loving someone through brokenness. I don't know what words would describe that. On the emotional level, that is very comforting for most of us. On the spiritual level, if I can return to my story, it was like I was grappling with this, thinking. Why me? Why? I serve you. Why me? So, Viktor Frankl says, if you can stop asking your why question, that would be first prize. It's like then it's resolved. But if you can't get there in the journey of suffering, now, listen, this is a man talking about suffering not as if he sat in an ivory tower thinking about it. He was 3.5 years in Auschwitz. I don't think any of us can say, it's kind of pain I'm familiar with. So coming from him, he says, if you cannot resolve the why question, at least if you come to a place where you have peace with the fact that you asked the why question, it's an indication that you've resolved a large part of your suffering, or the senselessness or the meaninglessness of your suffering, and you've come to a place where your suffering is making meaning to you. It might not go away because you've made meaning, but it starts to make meaning inside of you. Now, after 9 months, for me, it happened when I said, okay, I'm asking you, I've got a right to understand this, because I'm not a robot, and neither am I an idiot. I can think about this. But I will now submit my right to understand this. Now, I don't know if that would bring resolve for everyone. But for me, in Viktor Frankl's terms, it's me stopping with the why question. Stopping. Because it mulls over, it's tumultuous. It goes in circles and it goes down, and it transforms you. Yes?
So you just repeat that question or that sentence you said, if you cannot resolve the why question.
And you can make in some way peace with asking the why question. So you still have the why question, but it's not a burning question that you need to resolve, and in resolving it, it's going to take the suffering away, because the suffering might remain. The situation or the circumstance that causes the suffering might still be there. So if I think of that, for me it was like, I give up for wanting to know. I give up for wanting answers. I give up for resolving this in a way that this is now going to change, because maybe Carl can testify, maybe everyone can testify as to, I know Eunice can, she's now not on tonight, how you want this desperately. You can also, desperately you want this to be different. Not this, it should not be this, it should be something different. The boy should see, and the child should act normal. My husband should now start to walk again, if I'm talking out of Eunice's mouth. Or if you go through a divorce. No, this should not be, and we want it to be brought back to as it was, or as we expected it to be. If that doesn't happen, I think one needs to, and I don't know how one transfers that paradigm to a client, because now this is a bit more on a theoretical level. It makes sense, and when I would address an audience and speak at, let's say it's an affair where there are people in the audience and I speak, I would speak about this. How do you treat, how do you work with these challenges or suffering or disappointments that you go through in life? And then it's easier to say it to a large audience. When I sit with a client, I'm personally very sensitive before I will go there. But somehow that does make a difference to think like that. What Paul said, suffering produces perseverance, perseverance builds character, and character gives hope. Because it's true. For me, it's true. I didn't define that time, 22 years ago, as me going through suffering, and now I'm in a character building man. I must just bite the bullet, and then when I get through this, my character will be strong, and I will be, because you're overwhelmed by the pain. You're just too devastated. Some things are very devastated. Yes. I would do different things with each of those three scenarios that you've created. I would definitely ask my client, what do you think should I do with this information that you're giving me? That's one of the questions I would ask. If he has stolen a car and he tells me that, then my default place where I go to is draw distinction. Is this man born again or not? If he's not born again, then you stole a car. It's part of your nature. People that are not born again do things like that. It's obviously against the law. And shucks, maybe you shouldn't have told me that. Because it's not good. Why do you tell me that, man? Don't give me that information. Because now I feel compelled to go and tell someone that will sort you out according to the law. But I don't do that because, to be honest, no one has ever told me that they've stolen a car. But I have, and I'm wrestling currently with one of my clients that has confessed that he has some sexual affairs with other women outside of his relationship with his wife. Now, that now calls for some kind of journey. And if he's born again, then the journey would look different than if he's not born again. I say, oh, shucks, that's a lifestyle of people that are not born again. And that's actually what people, they're true to their nature. That nature does things like that. If you're born again, and you tell me that, then obviously you're sort of trusting me to help you with this. Either to stop this, or to bring it in the open so that you can get healing of some kind, or you want me to do something with this. And then we will start to work with doing something with this. And there are options. For my specific client, I would say there are two options. If your wife knows this, we take it back to ground zero and we're going to start to work from there if she can tolerate what you're going to tell her. And we will work from there. And I can testify that it is possible to mend, to heal, to bring wholeness again in that kind of relationship. If you're not going to go this route, and you just want to tell me this, it's fine, and we can work with this, but there are things that, since we are building this relationship, I must help you to become accountable, because you can't do that to your wife. And you know it more than I know. It's like sin is very devastating, and you don't have to tell people sin devastates and distracts. They know it. We all know it. Just go and do it and see what happens. See whether you're happy after that. It might temporarily, when you have the orgasm, it might be lacquer. But when you get out of there and real life hits you in the face, it's like, what the hell have I done? And then you will realize what destruction there is in it, yes. Some clients let's take this specific client I'm busy with now. So he came to know Jesus about 2 months ago. He grew up in a New Age home, was involved in many things that he would tell me is evil. And he had these illicit stuff that he did. And he enjoyed it while it lasted. And now he confessed to me because he sort of said, shit, someone must help me. I'm going down, and you know, even my suicide attempts don't even work. So he's like so desperate. And then I assure him, I will help you. It's not like I'm going to help you by not telling your wife. I'm going to tell you these are the two routes we can go. We're going to either tell your wife, and there is a lot of freedom in bringing things into the light like that. And you can decide on what detail you want to share, and she's obviously going to ask questions. Or you can hang back and let's just see how it works, how it plays out within you. And in the meantime, I will do my utmost best to help you to get out of this thing that you got yourself involved in. And then he opted eventually, because it was like he by himself chose. He called me one Friday and said, listen, Paul die fan gestraal. Ek en sy moet jou sien vandag, want die hel is los. Ek het vir haar vertel. So Friday afternoons, I don't like to work, and Debbie knows not to schedule me Friday afternoons, but I said, okay, from 1 o'clock I'm open. Come. They came and sat there, and she was fuming, and I could understand that. And he was broken, he was just crying and crying and crying, and sy het vir hom gesê, ophuil. En hy wil nie ophuil nie, want hy's broken, and we started to work. That is very broken, but very beautiful point to be when you want to restore this life that did things that he did. So, say again?
She was there, that means something.
Yes, what a woman, what a woman, what a woman.
A lot of women would have
No, and they're still together. It's now, 3 months after the confession. He's still broken and still grappling with it and still trying to untangle this web of whatever he got himself into. And Karel, mute bietjie daai kant man, asseblief. And but they're walking forward, and she's processing all this stuff. And she's processing all this stuff. There's another client, if I can use that again as an example. Young man, yes, he's attractive, really attractive young man, like looks like a movie star. And he came to me last week. He's seen me last year, just for 1 or 2 or 3 sessions. Like he just wanted. His father died when he was in standard 9, so I think he just wanted some older man to hear him. It's not like he had got some issues, but while he was speaking, I thought, there's some stuff here. Huh? There's really some stuff that you have. You also got just sexual stuff that he got himself into. And now he came to see me last week, and he said, yes, man, my life is also now on such a precarious point because I met this wonderful girl, and she loves Jesus. And you know how I was. I believe, but it was like a flippant thing. But I also now believe, and I actually go to church, and he's like talking about how Jesus turned his life around. And he said, and I decided to tell her everything. And so he started his confessions, but everything is like, by the 80th girl that he mentions, she's now tired about that. But he wants to get clean. So I told him, hand back a bit, man. You're loading things on, because he came to see me because she's now at a point where she can't, she took it and she said it's fine. Let's come clean because I want to get married. She's got nothing to confess. She's like a good girl. She's like a virgin. And I told him, you're doing a great thing. It's better to go into this marriage relationship with what you're doing, even though it can cost you it. But that's good, bringing things into the light. Absolutely. So we're journeying now, starting to journey, because she doesn't know me, and he wanted her to come and see me, but he says no, she's an actuary, so she's very rational about everything. He doesn't think she's going to come and see me. So I told him, no, I've got to. And I told him to tell her certain things, so she will come now. And we can start the journey, because she needs healing too. She needs some relief from all this stuff that has been heaped on her. But there's no other way, I think, but to bring things into the light. And when the light shines on it, that there can come healing. I don't think there's another way. I do say to certain guys, listen, there are options. One is come clean, bring it into the light. Work with it from there. I will be there for you in whatever capacity you can think of using this, what I can give you. Or you can just keep quiet, but it's not going to make it go away necessarily. But, yeah, I don't know. In my case, most of them opts for confession, bringing it into the light. And that's, I think, first prize, and I would say, and I affirm them. Yes, I tell them, listen, yes, how stupid you've been to do all that stuff. But you can't not do it. It's your nature. It's the Adamic nature is like that. It wants to lust. It wants to be greedy. It wants to be jealous. It wants to be prideful. But now you've got a different nature. You've got the nature of Jesus Christ in you, His nature. So now we need to rebuild according to this paradigm, this new life. To be honest, they don't really go there with me. They don't go to the root of, I need someone to confess this to. And I would guess that the word confess is foreign to them. Why would I confess? This is what I do. I know it hurts me. I know it will hurt my wife when she finds it out. Or it will hurt my husband when he finds out what I've done. It's not just men that do this. Women do it as well. But listen, We've got an arranged relationship.
But why would they come to see you?
They come for other things.
I mean,
No, they won't.
and other stuff
People
like
don't
that.
come to me to confess their sin. They come to me because I think they can increase quality of life or do some things different, or the pain that they have, they want relief from. Just a final thing. I do believe that within Christ, He understands and He wants to comfort and He wants to help us when we go through pain. I do not know what to do with the argument that you can throw at me and say, yeah, but He caused that pain or He allowed that pain. I do not know what to do with that argument. I would say it's true, but the one that hurts you will heal you. And the one that makes you suffer will bind you up. There's a paradox in that. I had an experience when one of my children fell out of our car on the highway, and he nearly died. And that night, because he was in hospital, I was at home, Renelle was in the hospital room with him. And that night I told God, listen, I don't know who, I think it was Job that says, the Lord gives and He takes away, and my heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. I cannot go there. Please, let him live. Please, let him live. I cannot, if you take him, I cannot say, blessed be the Lord. And He was gracious to me, and my son lived. He had very thick head and broken this and that and so on. So, be that as it may, if it happened that he died, there is a God that cares, that wants to relieve our pain somehow. I don't know how He does it, but He does it. He does it.